What happens when a biker shoves an old man at a fair and a Veterans Motorcycle Club rolls in? Find out on Graceful Valor Stories. The old man didn't raise his voice. He just dusted off his coat, steadying himself after the shove. People at the fair glanced, then looked away. The biker laughed. "Watch where you're going, Grandpa." No one stood up. Not yet. But 30 minutes later, the rumble of engines rolled in, and the Veterans Motorcycle Club didn't say a word. They just parked and stared. If that moment hit you, comment respect below. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories like this on Graceful Valor Stories. The bench wasn't much, just a splintered piece of wood beside the lemonade stand, but the old man eased himself down like it was home. He didn't speak, didn't even look around. His knees ached from the fall, but he dusted them off quietly, pulling his coat tight against the wind that had picked up. His coat was faded brown, frayed at the cuffs. A patch near the shoulder had once been vibrant. Now it was barely visible, but if you looked close, the outline of an airborne eagle was still there. The children nearby tugged at their parents. "Mom, that man fell. Shouldn't we help?" Their mother pulled them away, whispering something and steering them toward the candy booth. The old man saw it, but didn't flinch. His hands rested on a walking cane. Nothing fancy, just worn wood polished by time and use. A couple strolled by. The woman winced. "You'd think someone would do something." Her partner shrugged. "Probably some old drunk." They didn't look back. The fair rolled on like nothing had happened. Balloons, laughter, music. But around the old man there was a quiet bubble of space. People avoided his eyes, and he didn't demand theirs. He just stared out across the fairground toward the Ferris wheel, toward the horizon, not lost, just still. And somewhere beneath that silence, beneath the ache in his knees and the bruise blooming across his side, was a man who'd survived things these people couldn't imagine. He didn't need their sympathy. But something told him he wouldn't be sitting here long. A biker's shove sparks a silent showdown. What will the Veterans Motorcycle Club do next? Stay tuned on Graceful Valor Stories. On the far side of the fairground, the biker was still laughing. Tall, broad, with a sleeveless vest and mirrored sunglasses. He stood beside his parked Harley, flexing his jaw like he'd just won a bar fight. "Guy nearly scuffed my boots," he told his friends, slapping one of them on the back. The others chuckled, half watching a group of teenagers who had caught the whole thing on video. One of the teens zoomed in on the old man still sitting alone. "Bro, this is going to blow up on TikTok," he muttered, already editing a caption that read, "Gramps took a nap at the fair." People nearby murmured, but no one acted. A young couple paused. "That didn't look like an accident," the girl said. The guy shook his head. "I'm not getting involved, babe. Just leave it." Behind the fried food stalls, a security guard glanced over, saw the commotion, then turned away. He didn't want the paperwork. Not today. The biker lit a cigarette and leaned back against his motorcycle, feet crossed, sunglasses glinting in the sunlight. "Shouldn't be in the way if you can't stand your ground," he said loud enough for people to hear. Some nodded. Most didn't. But one man standing near the corndog stall wearing a leather vest with patches on the back didn't laugh. He just watched quietly and pulled out his phone. The man near the corndog stall stood still as the wind shifted. He was in his late 50s, maybe older. Thick beard, weathered skin, denim over leather. His vest was stitched with patches from another life. Operation Desert Storm, Rolling Thunder 07. And across the back in black and gold, Veterans Brotherhood MC, Southern Division. He hadn't spoken all afternoon, just watched. He'd seen enough. He stepped behind the stall, shielding himself from the noise, and pulled out a flip phone. The old kind. Burnished, beat up, but still working. He hit one number. Waited. "Yeah," came a voice on the other end. "It's Mac," he said quietly. "It's happening again." There was a pause. Location, Maple Ridge Fairground. Center stage. Another pause. "How bad?" Mac's eyes wandered toward the old man, still sitting with his cane, still looking out at the horizon like nothing was wrong. Then over to the biker, puffing smoke like a teenager craving attention, worse than it looks. The voice on the other end didn't ask more questions. On our way. Mac closed the phone, slipped it back into his pocket. Then he stepped forward, leaned against the edge of the lemonade booth, and waited, eyes locked on the man in the brown coat. The fair carried on, but something had shifted. At first, no one noticed the sound. The fairground was still alive with music and chatter. Kids begging for cotton candy. Teenagers screaming from the tilt-a-whirl. Someone announcing raffle winners over a cheap speaker. But beneath all that, a new sound crept in. A low, steady rumble. The kind that made soda cups on the tables vibrate. The kind that wasn't thunder, but felt like a storm. The biker heard it first. He glanced up, frowning behind his sunglasses. What the hell? Over the hill behind the vendor tents, a single headlight appeared. Then two, then six. Engines, deep and synchronized, rolled closer with each second. The crowd started turning. Conversations paused. People leaned toward the noise like deer sensing a shift in the wind. By the time they hit the gravel path beside the fair's main lane, the full group had come into view. 20 motorcycles, all matte black, all clean, all carrying men who weren't smiling. The front bike bore the same patch Mac wore, but bigger, more defined. Veterans Brotherhood MC below it, you never stand alone. They didn't rev their engines, didn't make a scene. They just parked one by one, side by side, a black wall of chrome and silence. The biker's smirk faded. What is this? Some retirement ride, he barked, trying to sound amused, but his voice cracked at the end. The lead rider removed his helmet, gray hair, scar across the jaw. No words. He simply walked past the biker, no eye contact, and toward the old man still sitting on the bench. A hush fell over the fair. Children stared. Vendors stopped mid-sale. Even the Ferris wheel slowed to a crawl as if the whole place could feel something sacred entering the air. The old man looked up. Eyes narrowed slightly. Recognition flickered, but he didn't stand. Not yet. The lead rider stood in front of him, removed his gloves, and nodded once, then said in a voice only the front row could hear. Been a long time, Gunny. The old man exhaled softly and nodded back. The crowd didn't know what to make of it. 20 men, most in their 50s or older, standing in silent formation around one park bench at the edge of the fairground. No words, no threats, just presence. And the man on the bench still seated, still silent. But now something had changed in his posture. His hands were steady. His shoulders had lifted slightly like the weight of invisibility had been pulled off him. An old hero rises as the crowd falls silent. Who is Gunny, and what's his untold story? Discover more on Graceful Valor Stories. The lead rider, scarred jaw, silver hair, stood at attention in front of him. I wasn't sure you were still breathing, Gunny, he said. The old man's mouth curled just slightly. Some days I wonder too. A few people had begun filming. A whisper passed through the crowd. Gunny? Who's Gunny? That guy? The one who fell earlier? A teenage boy leaned toward his father. Is he someone important? The father didn't answer. He just stared, squinting like he was trying to place a name from long ago. Mac stepped forward, removing his vest. Beneath it was a faded t-shirt with a unit number printed across the chest. 3rd Battalion, Firebase Ajax 1972, he said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. He turned to the crowd. You ever heard of the man who pulled 9 wounded from a burning convoy under mortar fire, then walked 20 clicks for evac with a broken leg? Silence. He didn't get a medal. Didn't want one. The biker, the one who'd shoved him earlier, now stood frozen, eyes wide. One of the younger riders walked past him, casually knocking the cigarette from his hand. Still, no one touched him. No need. The old man finally rose, slow, intentional. His cane touched the gravel, but his spine was straight. People stepped back to give him room, not out of fear, but out of sudden, unspoken respect. "I didn't come here for trouble," he said quietly. "Just wanted to hear the music. Eat a funnel cake." The lead writer smiled. "Then let's get you one on us." The crowd parted like a tide. A little boy stepped forward. The same one who'd watched him fall earlier and then tugged gently on his coat. "Mister, are you really a hero?" The old man looked down, eyes kind. "No, son," he said. "I just rode with a few." His name was Gunner James Holt, but they just called him Gunny. Back then, titles weren't earned with paper. They were earned in heat, dust, and silence. It was 1972. Firebase Ajax, somewhere in the jungle. Their convoy had been hit halfway to resupply. An ambush so brutal most never saw it coming. The lead truck was already on fire when Holt pulled himself from the rear Humvee. Shrapnel embedded in his calf. He didn't wait for orders. Didn't ask who was in charge. He just moved through gunfire, through screams, through smoke so thick you couldn't see your own boots. He pulled out Private Kinley first. Both legs gone. Then Specialist Duran, who'd taken around to the vest but was still breathing. 3 more came after that. All bloody, all screaming, all alive because of him. Then came Lieutenant Briggs, barely conscious, bleeding from the neck. Holt carried him on his back, barefoot by then, his boots melted from the heat of the wreckage. 9 men, all pulled to the tree-line, all shielded by one man with a cracked rifle and a busted knee. He wrapped their wounds with strips from his own uniform, hid them beneath fallen brush, and then as night fell, he limped 20 kilometers through enemy territory alone, navigating by the stars until he reached a signal outpost and collapsed. He refused the Purple Heart, refused the Silver Star, his only request, just send me home. And they did. But he never told the story. Not once. Not in full until now. Because as the crowd at the fair stood in silence, someone in the back gasped. "That's the guy my uncle talks about, Lieutenant Briggs." He said, a ghost carried him out. Said he never got to say thank you. Even the biker turned pale. He wasn't born yet when the ambush happened, but now the weight of what he'd done settled on him like cold steel. One of the veterans, the youngest among them, turned and looked him dead in the eye. "You shoved a man who never shoved anyone," he said. "Not even the ones trying to kill him." The biker opened his mouth, but nothing came out. And in that moment, surrounded by men who'd fought, bled, and buried brothers, there was nothing left to say anyway. Gunner Holt didn't gloat. He just stood taller, and the fair, once so loud, was completely silent. The fair organizer finally stepped forward. A woman in her 40s with a clipboard clutched tightly in her hands. Her eyes scanned the scene, unsure whether to intervene or simply let it unfold. She cleared her throat. "Sir, we'd be honored if you took the main seat for today's ceremony." Gunner Holt blinked. "I didn't come here for a ceremony." "I know," she said softly. "But people should know who you are, even if you never asked them to." The biker, still standing awkwardly beside his Harley, tried to mumble something, an apology maybe, but no one was listening anymore. The Veterans Motorcycle Club didn't touch him. Didn't need to. One silent glance from the group was enough to freeze him in place. As Gunner walked toward the main stage, the crowd naturally opened a path for him. Children stepped aside. Teenagers lowered their phones. Even the carnival worker who'd ignored the fall earlier now looked down ashamed. At the front row, someone had swapped out a plastic folding chair for something sturdier. A seat with arms, a cushion. A small plaque was being taped to the back as he approached. It read, "Reserved for one who stood when others couldn't." Gunner sat down slowly, cane across his lap. He didn't speak, didn't smile, but his eyes scanned the faces. Not with judgment, with memory. Somewhere in the distance, the Ferris wheel started moving again, and behind him, the motorcycles remained lined up like a wall. No engines running, no noise, just presence. Mac leaned in close, whispered so only Gunner could hear. "You never had to call us, brother. We always knew where you were. Some men ask for recognition. Others carry their service quietly until the world reminds them they were never forgotten. If you've ever watched someone stand tall after being pushed down or believe that respect isn't something you wear, it's something you've earned, this story was for you. Comment respect if you believe quiet dignity still matters. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Graceful Valor Stories to hear more stories of honor, sacrifice, and silent strength. Because sometimes the loudest statement comes from those who say nothing at all.